Hello, I'm Jonathan, and welcome to the Tamworth FC Social, a podcast all about Tamworth Football Club. The Lambs are up and running in the National League after their 1-1 draw at home to Sutton. This time, we look ahead to matches against York City and Hartlepool, and chat to a York City fan for their take ahead of Saturday's game. Don't forget, you can follow us on social media at TFC Social Pod. If you enjoy the podcast, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this episode a like. It really helps us grow our audience. Brett, you were at the game against Sutton United on Saturday just gone then. How are you feeling now you've had a few days to sort of reflect?
Yeah, I was impressed. I think, considering we've got Milnes out injured, we've got a couple of the defenders out injured as well, Diggy, Curley. We signed that almost emergency loan, if you like, from Blackpool. So, weren't at our probably strongest starting defence. I thought we did really, really well. Remember, Sutton were in the Football League 2 last season. Granted, it's a whole new team, but regardless, still professional. Spent the night before, at the Belfry. Our boys are probably just clocking off from work as they're rocking up to the hotel. So I think a really positive start for the season. And although we conceded really late on, and I did feel sorry for him, I think Jamie Willits looked like he was dead on his feet just after that goal winning. But I think, really pleased with the result. We just said at the start of the game or start of the afternoon, and when the lineups were announced, 1-1, I'd have been really, really happy with it. I suppose it's a little bit, it feels like almost like a negative result, but it's absolutely not. The fact that it was so late when we did concede. But, we'll learn. It's been a long time since we've been in this division, and we've all got to learn and grow together. So I think if we'd have made a couple of more subs a little bit earlier, would have made all the difference for us. When every point counts as well, could it be looking back at it in the season and saying, there's 2 points there that could have kept us up? Well, I mean, you don't know, do you? But it's 1 point that we need towards safety.
It's so important to just get some, a point or points on the board after the first game. How do you feel, Graham, about the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Brett. I mean, it's I'd have taken a 1-1 draw before the game, 100%. I think what's probably most pleasing about it is the performance. More than anything, it was we probably should have won the game based on the second half performance and the chances that we had. There was two or three chances. I'm thinking the Carl Finn chance that was on another day he's probably putting that away, but it was a really good save by the goalkeeper. And Miracle's chance as well, could have just creeped in on another day, and would have been probably out of sight then. So in a way, sort of like slightly disappointed that we didn't get the 3 points, which from before the game I would have taken a point all day long. So I think credit to the Tamworth team that they've come out and done that. I think there's definitely going to be tougher tests, I would say. Just based on the fact that is a new Sutton team. They're probably still finding their feet. They've got a whole new bunch of players. There's players from the level below that they've brought in. So I think what will be interesting is playing like a York this coming weekend there's kind of a bit more of an established style and way of playing there, and we can really sort of test out ourselves against those, and then what we've got coming up with the following week on Hartlepool. But I mean, to get a point first day back in the National League, in 10 years against a team that's just come down, can't really complain about that. We're on the board, and we've done much better than the other promoted teams as well. So all in all, a really good day.
I think if I was to sum up the afternoon or the feeling of the afternoon in one word after that, I would say proud. Really proud of the account that we gave ourselves.
Thought on the goal that Tamworth scored, it was just like really good composure, from the pass from Finn, but then the finish from Shakuna as well. And then even the miracle chance that could have made it too. I thought that was actually quite a hard chance. Like it wasn't the easiest of finishes.
I think if that had gone in as well, the difference that would have probably made for a coach this season as well. What a way that would have been for him to start on his debut. in fifth tier of English football, having just come from Southern League Prem, to have done, if that had gone in, what a great footing that would have been for him. But I mean, he still played well. Like he came on, and for me, he gave us a little bit of an edge going forward. And probably in the past we've mentioned it before, but I think Dan Carini, you could tell he's had a decent pre-season behind him as well. He was much more switched on probably than I think I've ever seen him.
Was going to ask you both about, we've talked about the forward options in recent episodes, but I wonder what this sort of does for the next games going forward, whether Creaney might get the nod for the next few games in the starting 11, or where does Chris Ray come into the equation? And I think if you're Miracle Okafor, he'll probably be even more determined now. Right, next chance I get, I'm just going to bury the chance. I think it's such early days. I think he'll get time as well. Only Miracle in the team as well to get goals. It's not like he's under huge pressure to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's interesting. You say that. But with Peaks last season, it was very much a case of, if we get a good result, we keep the same team pretty much. But now we've got a much bigger squad. I mean, we've really got 9 more players than we had last season, something like that. Anyway, I think we must have over 25 players at the moment, including the loan players. Obviously got a couple of injuries, but it does give us a lot more options than what we've ever had. And whether or not, because of the step up in class and the style of teams that we're going to be playing, will there be a bit of a different style of team playing depending on the game? I suppose Andy Peake sort of alluded to it in his post-match interview that York play a very different brand of football to what a Sutton does. Are we likely to see changes to that? And I guess we probably will do in the first sort of 10 games, because he's going to be finding out what his best team is. But because of that big squad, it does give us all of those options. I think it is quite exciting that we can one, make 5 subs, and 2, we've just got so many options. And even though we're part-time, we just have so many options. I think that's what's exciting, but also is also a really good strength of ours as well. So if we've got players that are tired, we can bring on a Beckeray, we can bring on a Mavinci, and those guys have got pace, they've got skill, and it gives defenders a headache in those kind of last 20 minutes or so, and we can probably get something because of that. So when you look at it like that, I think we've got some really good options.
Next up for Tamworth is another former EFL side in York City. This time it's an away game. York City stayed up by 1 point last season, and similar to Sutton, have had quite a busy summer with their transfer business. Seen a number of predictions tipping York to do quite well this season and to do much, much better than they did last season, where they just avoided relegation. They got a 1-1 draw away at Southend United in their opening game. A couple of us predicted Southend to go up. So I suppose in that respect, we have to sort of say, well, that's a good result for them. How are you feeling, Graham, ahead of this one?
I think York is going to be a tougher ask than last weekend. Well, 1, because we're away from home, and 2, because I think York, as you say, I think you're going to probably be one of the surprise teams to be up there after the season they had last season. But they made some very good signings over the summer. They've obviously, they've got a new manager in last season, and they've obviously got a style and way of playing which suits them. So I think it's just going to be a much, much more difficult game for us. But after last week, I'm sure the players are really full of confidence, and so they should be. And I think they can just go into it again with sort of we play our game. We don't give we give them their respect, but we don't need to bow down to them in the same way as what we do with Sutton. It's finding our feet, but at the same time, it's making sure that we play our way. I'm confident we can get something out of the game.
Equally as confident, Brett?
Yeah. Not really going into it kind of complacent or anything like that, but I think after a very good showing on Saturday, that will surely have put some wings in our sails. And why wouldn't we look at that and go, well, look, you're just about stayed up last season. They've got a new manager in. Why couldn't we go there and get something? So, yeah. And if what we're being told from the York fans is correct, that they are more of an attacking side and that their defence is probably the weaker part of that, that team, while we'll probably argue that ours is the polar opposite of that. That might be well and good. And okay, yeah, they've got a really good striker in Ollie Pearce from Worthing last year. Again, like a Kofa, like Carini, untested at this level. So still settling in. And that might be great. But I think, our defence is strong.
So to give us the York City fans' perspective of Saturday's game, Simon from the Same Old City podcast is joining us on this episode. Welcome to the TFC Social, Simon.
Thanks very much for having me on.
Looked like a decent result for your team at Southend last Saturday to start the season.
Yeah, 1-1 draw, which I think everyone would have taken before the game. Obviously, Southend quite well fancied this season, and obviously we only just scraped survival last season. So yeah, it was a good result. We didn't start that brilliantly, but kind of by the end of the game we were well on top. So we've got like a much better squad this season, and I think being able to bring on attacking subs made a real difference. And we also seem to have better fitness levels than then. So yeah, it was. There were more positive signs than the negative, definitely.
It looked like a busy summer for York as well. How's that sort of shaped your expectation for the season? What are you expecting as a fan base, do you think, this term?
It's difficult to say really, because we've had 2 seasons at this level since coming back up from National League North. Both times we've finished like a point or two above the relegation zone. But we've had a bit of investment now. We were hoping last season we were going to push on, but the recruitment wasn't great. The managers weren't great. But now we're hoping we've kind of got all the pieces of the puzzle. So, Adam Hinshelwood came in sort of to the back end of last season. He'd done quite well at Worthing for a few seasons. And yeah, he helped us survive. And now he's been able to bring in quite a few players that he's worked with before. Like Ollie Pearce, who scored about 5 million goals last season at National League South. So yeah, we brought him in. We brought quite a few other players that he's worked with before. So yeah, there's definitely more positivity around the club this season, and I think people are kind of hoping for like a playoff charge, and that seems to be what other fans I've spoken to are expecting from us as well. Obviously, it's a big jump to go from 20th to the top 7. So yeah, I'm not expecting it to be smooth sailing, but yeah, there's more stability, I think, at the club now, or there feels like there is. And there's a kind of defined playing style, and we still don't really know exactly how it's going to pan out, because the style is quite risky, shall we say, and Hinshelwood sides tend to score a lot of goals and also concede a lot of goals. Which I hear is kind of the opposite to you guys.
Yeah, what's your sort of expectations or knowledge of Tamworth for the coming weekend, if you have any?
Well, I'd say my knowledge of Tamworth wasn't that brilliant, but you guys are very kind enough to come on our own podcast and give me a bit of a lowdown on Tamworth. But no, I did have kind of a vague sense that you'd done very well last season with building on a really solid defence and with some kind of big bruisers at the back, lumping it forward a bit. This was what the cliches were that we were hearing about why Tamworth were doing so well. But you guys mentioned you got some kind of tricky wingers as well, but definitely looking to build from a solid defence, and kind of have a bit of physicality and getting out faces, which is kind of the opposite to the style that Hinshelwood's going for. He's moved a 5'9" fullback to play at centre back because he's better at playing out from the back, and so that gives you benefits, but also there's a danger he's going to get out muscled. But yeah, don't really know what to expect in terms of how Tamworth will do this season.
What would you say? Because obviously York got promoted only a couple of seasons ago. What would you say is like the main key difference from the National League North to the National League?
I mean, I've kind of tried to block out all those years in National League North from my memory, to be honest. But it is very different. Actually, it's a big step up in standard, I think. And we found that the players who did well for us in National League North and got us promoted, we kind of tried and persisted with them for a season or two, but even the better players couldn't quite cut it, and a lot of them have dropped back down to that level with other clubs now.
Interesting.
Just because, whereas like the gap from National League to League Two seems quite small now. Like teams who go up from National League seem to do pretty well. I think because only two sides go up, so there's teams that can be pretty strong but stay in the league for years. But yeah, I think it's just probably the overall technical quality, but also the fitness levels, because the difference between full-time and part-time possibly.
What's the story with the new stadium? I was never lucky enough to go to Kit Kat Crescent, but I mean, how many years has it been now? 4, is it, that you've been in the new one?
That's a good question. About 3 years. It was weird because the first game we played there was like in lockdown, so there was no fans, and it was in that season that got cancelled as well. So I don't know whether that officially counts, but yeah, the first season we had fully with fans there was the season we came up from National League North. So we've done 3 seasons there. This will be the 4th, and it'd been on the cards for decades really to move away from. You call it Kit Kat Crescent. I know people seem to really like that name. I think it was only called that for about a year with that branding, but it got quite a lot of publicity. So Bootham Crescent is what we always call it. But yeah, Bootham Crescent was a very old school ground. It was terracing, and it wasn't really any facilities. The pitch would get quite boggy. So yeah, we've moved out to this new ground, which the good parts is that the facilities are a lot better. It's a lot better to take families to and stuff. But the downside is it's on a retail park on the edge of town, like most grounds are now, whereas the old one, especially for an away day, you could get the train and walk to the ground and stop off at a couple of pubs. It was quite nice, whereas yeah, it's kind of on the outskirts really. But it's we're gradually trying to kind of make it feel like home, and it does generate a decent atmosphere.
Can we tempt you into a scoreline prediction for Saturday, Simon?
Yeah, it's always difficult when you're trying to predict your club against someone else that supports the opposition, and also because we've only had one game of the season and we've both drawn. I think it's going to be a big contrast of styles, because you guys are going to be trying to shut up shop and I guess maybe catch us on the break, things like that. Whereas a big part of our play is kind of trying to play out from the back and like invite the press. But it sounds like maybe you guys wouldn't be doing that much pressing. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it's going to play out. I mean, every preseason game we've scored a goal and conceded a goal. At least we had a couple of 3-alls. So I think we'll definitely score, but I can see you guys scoring as well. I'm gonna go 2-1 York.
Interesting. I wrote my prediction down before we jumped on the call. I actually went for a 2-0 to York. So similar to you, Simon. What about you, Graham?
I'm gonna be optimistic and go 1-0 to Tamworth, based on not a lot really. I would say just a hunch. I had a hunch that we'd draw last weekend, and we did. So I'm gonna go with my hunch again. I don't have much to back up at the moment, or knowledge of the team so far. So I think the first 5 or 6 games is going to be a bit like this, and then you start to get a bit of a picture, don't you, of what's going on. So I'm gonna go 1-0 to Tamworth.
What about you, Brett?
Well, I also was going to go 1-0 to Tamworth, but as soon as Graham's got in there first, I'll go 2-1 Tamworth. I don't actually think we will win 2-1. I do think we will win 1-0, but I'll go 2-1 just to be different. I think this is a good test for us to see how much we've learned from last weekend. It'll be a good run out for the defence as well. Obviously, especially if York are so attacking, it'll just be good to see how strong we are. And we've got injuries as well, so I don't think we'll have enough to keep them out completely. If we go up 1-0 up first, maybe, but I don't know. We'll see.
Interesting. I'm the pessimist then amongst the Tamworth contingent, it seems. Simon, anything else you wanted to mention that we haven't asked you about?
No, I think that's about covered it. Yeah, if anyone is really interested in hearing a bit more about York, then check out Same Old City, which is a podcast I do with my friend Ben. We've been going this will be our second season. So if anyone wants to adopt York as a second team, then give us a listen.
Great stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, Simon. And I guess from Sunday onwards, best of luck for the rest of the season. And it should be an interesting game Saturday.
Yeah, same to you. Best of luck. And safe travels to everyone who's making the journey. I hope you enjoy York, even if you are in a retail part rather than in the nice historic bit of it.
We will move on to Hartlepool at home. Hartlepool won their opening game 1-0 away at Yeovil. I was seeing a bit on social media earlier about how long their journey was to make that game. So I guess that's a pretty good result for them, all things considered. Hartlepool finished 12th in the National League last season. And I guess as well, you'd put them in the group of teams who could feasibly make the playoffs. Is this a good chance, Brett, would you say, for Tamworth to get the first home win of the season?
Well, it's a long journey for a minute on a Tuesday. So I'd rather it be playing them on a Tuesday night than on a Saturday. So I think it's probably more in our favour. It's a difficult one to judge, really. I still look at Hartlepool and think about 2005 when Matt Redmore scores to put us 2-0 up in the FA Cup when they're a League One side pushing for the playoffs. So it's hard to really ever imagine them being anything other than that. I think let's see how Saturday goes, because it depends if Saturday's a really tough game for us. Remember, we're not training in between Saturdays and Tuesdays either. So I think if you take it from now, again, I'd be happy with the draw out of that, because although they finished 12th, clearly they're capable of finishing much higher than that. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, I think. One for definitely looking back on nostalgia. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who are going to turn up on that Tuesday and go, oh, remember playing these in the Cup. On paper at the minute, I'd say a draw will be a good result, but obviously it depends what happens after Saturday.
I make that 2005 FA Cup game the last time Tamworth played Hartlepool. And you can, of course, listen back to our episode about Tamworth in the 2000s, where Brett also mentions that game amongst others from that era. What about you, Graham? Do you think Tamworth can get 3 points out of this one, or is it going to be harder than that?
It's so difficult, isn't it, to say? I really don't know. But I suppose maybe on paper, I'm thinking that the York game's probably going to be a tougher game. Not sure about what business Hartlepool have really done in the summer. I know they've got old Jeffrey Stelling on the board, though. I wonder if Jeff Stelling's going to be at the Lamb. Bob Andrews, VIP guest. Yeah, I think, as Brett said, but the odds are kind of stacked slightly more against them because they've got to travel down Tuesday night. So even though they're full time, it's, I suppose coming down to Tamworth on a Tuesday. I'm feeling fairly confident though that to me, there's more going for us than against us for that game. So I think I could say, say we're going to win it, but there's a strong chance that we can get a result based on sort of what the odds are for us. But it's a difficult one to predict at the moment. And it's weird when you think about it, how and where the teams have been over the years since they last played. Well, that's like nearly 20 years ago, isn't it? So yeah, times have changed a lot, particularly for Hartlepool.
Right then, chaps, it's time for predictions, and a reminder, in our mini league, it's 1 point for a correct result and 3 points for getting the score exactly correct. The Sutton United game ended 1-1 on Saturday. Our reigning champion, Graham, for that one went for a 2-2 draw, so it's 1 point for him. Brett thought Tamworth would lose 2-1, so nil point for Brett. And little old me, with my debut in the Predictions League, correctly predicted 1-1 draw, so I take all 3 points for that and a little early season lead in our mini league. So double game week means 2 predictions each this time. I'd like you to each give me both of your predictions, York first, then Hartlepool. And this is your last chance to change your York predictions from when we were chatting to Simon earlier on. So I'll go first. I will stick with York City 2, Tamworth 0, which, Brett, I think you pulled a little bit of a face when I went for that one. But my counter to that is I think Tamworth will beat Hartlepool 1-0. Would you like to go next, Brett?
That means I can change my prediction. So, I actually think Tamworth will win 1-0 on Saturday. I just think that we set ourselves up right, defend as we know we can. I think we'll frustrate them, and I think we can come away with a win. And then for Hartlepool, I actually think I would take a 0-0 draw from that. I could see us just from the off shutting up shop. And Hartlepool taking a while to get used to the plastic pitch, probably not really get into grips with it. And I can just see us grinding that out to a 0-0. Interesting, because no one ever predicts a 0-0.
What about you, Graham?
Yeah, I'm gonna go York City 0, Tamworth 1. As well, I think it's really a hunch more than anything for this. I think just the way we'll set up and we'll catch them out. I think they'll underestimate us, personally. And I think we can defend all day if we want to. So, yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 Saturday. Hartlepool game, I'm going to go 1-1. I think a draw would be a reasonable result. Again, don't really have the knowledge really of the teams that much at the moment, especially not Hartlepool. So, but I think that would be a reasonable result for us at home.
Interesting mix of scorelines there. I think, to be honest, with my York prediction of Tamworth to lose 2-0, that is really a hunch as well. Part of it is as well, August is quite a tricky looking month on paper, and I think Tamworth probably will lose a match or matches this month. And promoted teams, usually your home form is kind of your backbone, isn't it?
I think we could come out of August really positively. If we win on Saturday, I think we could win at Boston. See no reason why Hartlepool and Aldershot will beat us, although Aldershot have got some really good players. Well, I think we could come out of August with 7-8 points, and that would be really good.
Be very, very happy with that. I think after Saturday, we can have a bit of confidence, though. We really can. It's given us something to build on, and whether or not it's just the first game of the season, we've proved we can compete and more than compete, and I think that's the important thing. It was a tough first game for us to come up against the next Football League side as a part-time club, so I think we can be really proud of that and use that as some momentum to push us forward.
We'll leave it there then for this episode of the Tamworth FC Social podcast. Thank you for listening. You can follow us on social media at TFC Social Pod. If you enjoy the podcast, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this episode a like. It really helps us grow our audience. Until next time, goodbye.